Hey Jack, I'm back, and with me, another speed art. This one is of Cornelius from the original Planet of the Apes. Today I'm going to be ranking the entire Planet of the Apes franchise. That means the original 5 films, the Tim Burton remake, as well as the rebooted 4-film quadrilogy. I'm not including either of the TV series, as ranking low-budget TV series against movies is probably a little unfair. But with that said, let's rank all 10 Planet of the Apes films right now from worst to first. And I can tell you that some of my placements will probably be just a little controversial. Coming in 10th place is a film that bridges the two eras of ape films, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. It's a weird film that exists as both a more faithful adaptation of the source material and a remake of the original film. The makeup and special effects work is amazing, but the human performances can't match the undeniable allure of the apes, boasted by a stellar performance by Tim Roth, Michael Clark Duncan, and Paul Giamatti. The main problem with this film is the odd story choices and weird romantic tension between a female chimp and the uncharismatic Mark Wahlberg. It's worth a watch as an Apes fan, but don't expect something that lives up to the classic films or the new rebooted series. So from here on out, I really don't dislike any of the films. So if something is placed higher or lower than how you would rank it, just know that I like all of these movies, just some more than others. With that disclaimer out of the way, in 9th is the strangest film in the franchise, the second film in the series, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Despite being this low on my list, I actually find this film endlessly fascinating. The making of the movie is almost more interesting than the film itself. Basically, Charlton Heston didn't really want to return for the film, but agreed to come back as long as his salary went to a charity of his choice, although only in a cameo role, which basically results in James Franciscus taking on the role of Heston Light, with the first half of the film mostly being a remake of the first film. Around the halfway point is when things get interesting, when we meet the telepathic mutants and the Vietnam connections come into full force with military leader General Ursus. Once the action hits, it comes to a dark and bleak ending that is almost as shocking as the original film. 8th place goes to the 4th film in the series, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, a fun ape sequel that delivers on the setup of the previous film with Caesar leading an ape uprising against a tyrannical government. The pacing is a little slow at the start, but the performance by Roddy McDowall, now playing his previous role's offspring, keeps the film's heart. Ricardo Montalban is great in his role as Armando, the foster father of Caesar, and Don Murray does a serviceable job as the leader, Governor Breck, although you can really start to see the diminishing budget here, as most of the background apes look pretty rough. Although this is actually a pretty fun film, and did serve as the inspiration for Rise of the Planet of the Apes. In lucky number 7 is a film I enjoy more than most ape fans it seems, and that's Battle for the Planet of the Apes, the 5th film in the series. While the budget was truly spread thin here, Roddy McDowall gives it his all as the returning Caesar, which gives his character a satisfying conclusion. The best parts of the power dynamic by the opposing guerrilla General Aldo, played nicely by Claude Atkins, and the relationship between Caesar and his son Cornelius. The lawgiver scenes at the start and end help to bookend the story as though it's a fable that's been passed down for centuries and helps to give the story a heftier might than it would have had without those scenes. Although you have to sort of use your imagination when the battle comes, as it's a little small scale for the ideas at play. In fact, you've probably seen bigger fights on public school grounds, but I can forgive this as the series usually has a bigger scope than the budget ever allows. In 6th place is the first of the reboot series, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. A great film and fresh start for the Apes franchise really. The CGI looks amazing minus a few shots, and the origin of Caesar is fleshed out nicely. The film loses some points for James Franco sort of just sleepwalking through his role, although I do find it funny that he is the person responsible for the downfall of man. Despite his miscasting, the film itself gives you characters to root for in Caesar, Maurice, and John Lithgow playing the father of James Franco's character. The film is really a commentary on animal testing and the problem with human hubris who want to play God, not caring about the implications, even if their heart is in the right position. Overall, I saw this film in theaters and it reinvigorated my love of the franchise, having grown up watching the original films on Sci-fi. In 5th is the latest film in the series, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, another fantastic entry in the ever-sprawling Planet of the Apes series. Nicely fits in with the previous films while carving its own path. The new main characters are worthy successors to the franchise, and the CGI continues to be impressive. No moment takes you out of the realism on display. Proximus Caesar steals every scene he's in, and the casting of William H. Macy was a nice surprise when I saw it in theaters. The film does everything a legacy sequel and reboot should do. It tells a great story and gets you excited for the possibility of more movies in the series. I'm hoping for at least a trilogy with these new characters. In fourth is the absolutely stunning movie War for the Planet of the Apes. Visually and storytelling wise, this movie is probably one of the best sci-fi films of the 20th century. It cements this version of Caesar as one of the best characters in film in general. What a truly up there CGI game here. Some shots look so lifelike it's hard to tell them apart from real life gorillas. It's a little slow compared to the first two in the new trilogy, but the emotional core helps keep it as one of the best in the series. Woody Harrelson does a great job in the antagonistic warlord role, and the film evolves the virus to get the world closer to the ideas portrayed in the original series. Overall, it's a must-watch for ape fans. Coming into the top 3 is my favorite of the new reboots, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. A beautifully shot film that doubles down on the apes and gives us interesting humans that stumble into their territory. The CGI and fight scenes are impeccable and the climax is thrilling and also heartbreaking. Andy Serkis truly shines here as Caesar, and the new human characters complement the various facets of human society nicely, with the kind and curious Malcolm, the desperate leader played by Gary Oldman, and the cold and hateful Carver. Koba, played by Toby Kebbell, is one of the franchise's best villains, which helps make this a great entry in the reimagined Apes franchise. At number 2, controversially maybe, is the classic that is big on ideas and started a franchise that continues to entertain today. That is, of course, the original Planet of the Apes. The makeup work is incredible and the story is iconic, so much in the osmosis of our minds that The Simpsons and other media has spent decades homaging it. Charlton Heston puts in a performance that is a little dated by today's standards, but is extremely captivating. Kim Hunter, Roddy McDowall, and Maurice Evans do a great job in their respective roles as Zira, Cornelius, and Dr. Zaius. The ending is probably the most iconic film ending of all time, right up there with Star Wars Episode 5, Psycho, 7, and Casablanca. This really is one of the best sci-fi films of all time, and if you haven't watched it and you don't watch older movies, I'm telling you, just go out, watch it. It might be a little slow in the first half, but it is absolutely incredible. But my favorite of the series is the third film, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, a great simple sequel that takes the series in a more comedic direction, while amping up the human drama, all coming to an end with a harrowing final. This really is the Cornelius and Zira movie, and the performances here helped to make the other entries even better. Having the film take place in the modern day allowed them to make the makeup for the main characters here just as good as the original, as they didn't need to make any elaborate sets for the film. This truly has it all, and makes me love the series all over again every time I rewatch it. So that is my ranking of the Planet of the Apes franchise. Leave your own ranking below. If you haven't seen it, I have a new animation on my main channel going through the original Planet of the Apes timeline. It's actually pretty interesting as the weird sequels are often overlooked in the series, so you can check that out on the main channel. Also, thank you to Ryan Barnes for joining the Patreon recently. Check out the Patreon to get early access to the animations, sneak peeks, illustrations, full-size infographics, and access to the actual animation models I create for the animations themselves. So until next time, I've been Aaron, and I'll tell you something later.